Welcome to You're Grounded. I think language, communication, and translating thoughts to one another through our own perceived experiences is one of our greatest gifts and tools as human beings. Join us every episode and eavesdrop on what we're connecting on, and hopefully our chats can inspire you and your friends' conversations, and at the very least, make you feel more grounded. I'm so grateful to share this conversation with you. Okay, we're here, you guys. Can you freaking believe it? I can't believe it. I can't believe I'm sitting in front of a camera recording myself right now. This is wild. Thank you for tuning in. If you are at all curious about how I got here, what the heck I'm going to even be talking about, what is the deal with this whole podcast in general, that's exactly what this first episode is for. And I want to start out on an honest foot as well. I had originally recorded this initial solo episode back in December, and it is now February. And the reason that I am doing this is, the first go around we had some errors, just beginner technological issues, and B, I've just had some time to reflect since then, and there are a couple of changes that I wanted to make and add a couple things, so there's actually a little bit more than there even used to be in this episode, so I hope you guys appreciate that. And I just really wanted to be able to fully convey so many topics in this episode, not necessarily topics of what I'm going to talk about on the podcast as a whole, but just like so many points I wanted to make, it being my initial solo episode. So if you're watching this online video style, I want to apologize for looking off camera a lot because it's a solo episode, because I'm not just having a fluent, open conversation with somebody, because I didn't want to have a formalized speech remembered. This is exactly what I need to do just to make sure I stay on track and I don't miss anything. So I'm going to be looking off quite a bit, but this is not the normal format, so I appreciate your patience with that too. But just know that, again, I am beyond grateful for every single one of you that's listening to this right now. It is overwhelming, deep breath, to have had all the tiny little comments here and there in passing with friends or online, and words of encouragement and support. So far, just even now, this is the episode just launching, but I mean, even leading up to this and just explaining to people what I was going to be pursuing, it has been so incredible. I just really want to appreciate every single one of you more than ever I can express. I'm going to say it again still in later in this episode, so get used to it. But that being said, if you don't know me, who the hell is this girl? Why does she get a podcast? Why does she think she has something to say? I don't have any, I don't have a psychology degree. I have a kinesiology degree. I don't have a New York Times bestseller yet. What are my accolades here of why you should listen to me? But more than explain why you should listen to me, I really want this episode to explain why I am creating a podcast, how I got here, and a little teaser of some topics that I'm going to be talking about to give you a better picture of what my goal is. But sitting down to focus and create this podcast, and even the idea of this podcast, was truly the first time in my life that I had actually ever processed the thought of what summarizes the service that I want to give back to this world. Do many of you know the answer to that in your job? It's a tough one. It's a deep one. So for the first time, I'm really getting to acknowledge these desires. And in the process of getting to even recording this episode, I had these desires, but with making a podcast, the reality of a lot of fears came as well. I've had to clearly push through those fears, or I wouldn't be here recording this right now. But no matter how long this podcast runs, whatever the length is, however many episodes there are, I want it solely to be a small blip of service on the world's radar. And what I don't want people to have is any more feeling of shame, suffering, or lack than they need to. And it's almost as if in life we're experiencing and processing traumas and observations. And I want us all to be able to connect on those mutually. I want to be able to express the things that I've gone through. I want to be able to inspire anyone and have a place of comfort and connection. So my courage is clearly outweighing my fears. And I wouldn't be recording this right now, like I said, if I had let those fears, stop me, and like they do from a lot of people pursuing their quote unquote dream career. So I just want to acknowledge that in myself, and through my growth and observation in this process and getting to this point, and even just in life in general, I feel like it's so rare for people to be fully themselves. This is another one of my motivating factors of why I wanted to do this. And people authentically existing, it's really rare. It's hard to stay and be authentic. We live in a world where there's a voice in public opinion on everything, and it's perfectly formed for judgment. And the world really wants us to stay small and safe. No way do I have it all figured out. Let's just state the obvious. But I am always truly trying my best and wanting to grow and embrace change. And I want to be able to do that in a refreshing space of dialogue for you and navigate this crazy life right along with you. We are all consumers. You are a consumer. I'm a consumer. And as far as content goes, I just want you to even think, why do we consume content? Why do we look externally? Why do we consume anything that we do? Is it for an escape? Is it connection for all that is greater than ourselves? Is it to learn, to grow, to laugh? I want to be the portal for all those reasons through the power of language. The power of language in storytelling is literally something that's been around since the dawn of time. I mean, if you think about it, been cave markings are a way of depicting storytelling to a further generation and information to a later generation. And now we live in 2022 where it's podcasts and YouTube and the internet. So, yes, that's crazy, and yes, that's scary. But at the same time, I really think that having thoughts read to, or if you read about other people's thoughts, is what I'm trying to say, or hearing them from someone else audibly, really helps someone validate and fuel your beliefs. So language is the foundation of translating experience and emotion, and really being able to have that storytelling connection, that shared experience, that shared emotion is truly one of our greatest gifts that we have. So with that being said, how did I get here? How are we recording a podcast of all things? The Becca I know versus the Becca doing this right now. How did she get here? So I haven't always been this confident or empowered. It's definitely not a normal life trajectory to be recording yourself and expressing yourself publicly, but my voice was being suppressed, and that's exactly why I even had this idea to get started. A little backstory about me is I was incredibly unhappy, unfulfilled, and unstable, all the uns, for the last 10 years in my career. And over 2021, the past year, I truly faced the fact that I was living an unfulfilled sense of lack in my career. And I labeled that as the trauma that it truly was. And I really spent the last 6 months fully diving into this idea and this concept and understanding my mental state of lack and what that translated into my thoughts and what that made me believe about myself. I felt like in all the different sales jobs I've had over the past 10 years that my skill set was, of course, being utilized of being able to talk to people. Great. But so much of me was inauthentically being forced, and I wasn't ever able to make a genuine connection with people, hardly ever. And that was incredibly draining to me. I felt like I was screaming in a nightmare, when no one can hear you, every single day. And I know that might sound extreme to someone who hasn't experienced a sense of lack or loves their job. That's amazing. I want that for everybody. But my experience is all that I can share. And I was constantly on defensive mode, like stating my validity and having to validate what I was doing. And I was great connecting with customers, quote unquote, in sales, but I never could fully authentically feel like I was giving a service. Yes, my service, quote unquote, was whatever product place I was representing, but what was I servicing to this world? What was I servicing in this lifetime as my legacy? So it made me anxious. I had sense of instability and a mental lack of purpose. And when you think about it, your job is 70% of your life, not even just, Monday through Friday versus Saturday and Sunday, but also 70% of your whole entire life, year-wise as well. That was not something I wanted to continue to operate in. I had had enough in just 10 years and, it took me that long. That was my journey, but I always felt empowered to want to do something else. I knew that sales wasn't going to be the rest of my life. I knew I had more to give. I knew that that wasn't the long-term answer, but I didn't know what the heck to do. I'm going to be honest. I was so frustrated for so many years on if I just knew what I was meant to do, I would go after it. I would go do it. But I wish I had the answer of how I got to be. I will explain the story of how I thought about a podcast, but I wish I had the answer to when I found that. Like, I wish I could understand and explain and tell people how to seek that and find that. But it just kind of happened. So, a little bit of a story time, but back in September of 2020, my family and I took a little road trip up to Sedona. And I actually had an aura reading. Very woo-woo, very Sedona. If you've ever been there, you know the vibes. And the woman who depicted my results to me that worked there, she told me something about my aura and that my throat chakra was really suppressed. And correct me if I'm wrong, but to my understanding, I was like, okay, cool. I'll look at the brochure later when I get home and understand. But when I went home, and this is really what stuck with me, is my throat chakra being suppressed meant that I was feeling unheard and I was feeling, you know, like I wasn't fully expressing myself. The way my little brain translated that was, you need to talk more. So essentially, I don't know what translated that exact day, the confidence within me to be like, this is a aha moment. Let me share this with my whole following, all my friends. But in that moment, I don't know what drove me. I still don't. But I posted on my story and asked if it would be interesting for people that are friends of mine if I had a podcast. And when I tell you, the response was just like so empowering and so positive, more than anything I'd ever posted. I thought two people were going to be like, of course, girl, go for it. Your friends are always going to be supportive, but it was truly people, even out of the woodwork, like really saying, go for this. And that was when things changed. That was September of 2020. And obviously we're in 2022. So for a little while, I was still stuck on my hamster wheel in the corporate world and really didn't take any action and didn't act on it. But in 2021, so after that experience in Sedona, I really invested in myself and I did all that reflecting and, did that internal work of understanding where my sense of lack came from and how I was unfulfilled and had this idea that would potentially be fulfilling for me. And I'm finally taking action. I'm finally claiming this as my reality. And ever since I claimed this, since September of 2020, that I thought was empowering. I mean, when I have announced this, the empowerment that I have received from externally has been surreal. I mean, of course, close friends and family, people of all ages have been so supportive of this and see it as such a lock and key for me, such a perfect fit. But even people that I've met for the first time and only had one interaction with them, and their support has been so natural and flowing to me, the universe has just been like, yes, yes, yes. So I just am blown away and I'm no longer holding back. And I really want to be myself. I want to be authentic. Like I said, I feel like that's a really rare thing to experience in this lifetime nowadays. But I also have those fears that I had to still push through. Again, this is a congruent theme, but being public is something that's incredibly new to me. I never had a public platform before this podcast. And that was really scary to me. And that was something that I had to push through no matter what. I mean, would I have loved for this to be a perfect studio? Would I have loved for this to be a professional camera? Would I love for this to be a professional set? Yes. Am I scared of people in the public judging me? Yes. Like, these are all real fears that I had, but I still had to go forth anyways. Um, and if I'm not being my authentic self, that means I'm people pleasing and just trying to be accepted by everybody. No one's meant to be accepted by and liked by everybody. So maybe listening to my podcast is going to make you reflect in some uncomfortable areas. Maybe it's triggering for you and you'll be not wanting to face or hear the ideas about our dark sides. There's going to be a lot of content. It's not going to be happy all the time, but it's not going to be dark all the time. So maybe that's one person's reality that would be off-putting to them, but it might be exactly what the next person needed to hear. So I am in no control of how my content's going to be consumed, but I also have no control if this is going to be quote successful or quote unsuccessful. But what I do have control over is defining what success means to me. And the rest is just gaining knowledge. I mean, I'm going to learn from the conversations I have. I'm going to learn even just the process of creating a podcast. I mean, I simply want to be of service and to help you guys gain any knowledge or validity as well. To be on the road of fulfilling my purpose and giving my life meaning is indescribable. It's truly all I've wanted for 10 years and felt a lack. And this is finally filling that void for me. And I'm able to do that with my personality and my soul aligning. And that just brings me so much joy. It hasn't always been easy. Like I said, I've hit on a couple of my fears thus far, but I really had to create something out of nothing. This is literally just an idea, and I'm just putting it out there in the world. From the equipment, all the things, the microphone, the ring light, the you name it, to the people, to the topics. I'm just so lucky to have all the support that I do. I've never freaking made a logo or graphic design anything in my life. I've never made a TikTok in my life. This is all a learning process for me as well. But I'm figuring out how to do it. And if I want to be my own boss, I have to create my own deadlines. That's a whole new experience for me. I mean, if anyone has started their own job, side hustle career, they'll know it's so bizarre stepping off those railroad tracks of life where everything's really depicted for you and you know exactly what to do and when to do it. So I'm stepping into a whole new person by self-motivating and being the only one that's pushing myself. But more than anything, I truly desired a career where I can be myself and have this freedom to travel and connect with people and let their experiences and imprints that have been on their lives, that have shaped them and their ideas be shared with the world. And I want to be the portal to do that. I'm not wondering what if anymore. I'm truly just diving in head first. And we're all just out here freaking doing our best. I mean, I'm just doing my best. Like I said, I wish this was like a studio, beautifully done. I wish Oprah was sitting next to me, but we would have to just suppress the ego and start somewhere. So here we are. I'm putting this out into the world. And I really just want to share my thoughts and conversations with my incredible friendships and express our human connection through humor, gratitude, compassion, kindness, and warmth. Those are the things I love. So, moving on, what is in a name? How did I come up with You're Grounded? So, there's actually a dual meaning to that, which is kind of funny. The first one may or may not be the first one that popped into your head, but is a story from when I was growing up. And that continual story in my life was, you're going to your parent teacher conferences, you're getting your report cards, you're going through the whole thing with your teachers. And growing up, people would say, oh, Becca's a great student. She is being a leader, blah, blah, blah. But dot, dot, dot. No matter who we move her to, she always has the trouble stopping to chat with her neighbor. So ever since I was little, I have been, shamed for talking too much and being a distraction and just wanting to connect with people. So I should have known. I'd just be here blabbing about myself on a record and with other people as an adult. I should have known. Then. And the other one is, as an adult, I have been given the accolades and compliments of people just telling me they think I have just a really assured and grounded presence about me. So that's the duality behind the name. Now you know. But the juicy stuff, I want to paint a picture for you guys very, very briefly, like literally a little sliver, because obviously podcasts are all about the elaborations of topics, but I want to just summarize and end up here with this initial episode and paint the picture for you guys on what to expect. So, what I seek and want most from this podcast, enough about me, enough about how I got here. What is the podcast about? I want to have it be an eavesdrop on real life conversations with my real friends. And everyone deals with and navigates so many new transformations and emotions every single day. And rarely do we have a safe space to feel comfortable hearing others connect on those same thoughts. And we have a deep way, a relatable way, and a lighthearted energy way that we can be able to do this. We all know I don't take myself too seriously, so we together get to be able to have these in-depth, good, juicy conversations with my lighthearted delivery. And maybe you've already thought about the topics or thoughts that we're going to cover dozens of times in your life. Maybe you've never thought about them at all. Or maybe you've just never had the opportunity or environment to have these conversations with anyone you know, and we can finally validate you and do that with you. So this is a virtual way for me to give you a hug, and depending on how you want to be able to interpret that, there might be some tears of laughing, crying, both. Up to you how you're going to process and digest this information. And of course, some of the topics are going to be, I'll list them next, but I think the best way to summarize them is human connection and internal dialogue. That meaning topics including strong suits, celebrating accomplishments that aren't work related, not keeping score, healing inside your comfort zone, resentment versus admiration, the totality of our relationships, life impressions on your story, no one will ever know you better than you, choosing your destiny and levels of tolerability, and wanting people to be more like you. It's a big ego one for all of us. And we don't find each other by accident. So, as you can tell, those are literally just slivers. The whole point of the podcast is to listen and elaborate on those. So you're going to have to tune in. But really, what I want to finally end on here is my hopes of what people will feel with engaging with my content, and the emotions that I sat and brainstormed that I hope people feel when they're engaging with my content and strengthening our human connection and bridging that gap between all of our little lives here on this planet is self-love, relief, and a sense of calm, but also energized with laughter, empowered, included, cared for, understood, heard, enlightened, maybe some things that are thought-provoking, inspiring to you, a sense of community, trust, and of course, gratitude. So, if you have made it this far, I said it 3 times in the beginning and I told you I was going to say it again. I cannot thank you enough for supporting me and taking the time to listen to me talk about myself, especially in this episode, because it's not so much knowledge about a topic or a conversation with 2 people. It's literally just me talking about myself and explaining how we got here. So that in and of itself means so incredibly much to me that you took the time and dedication to believe in me, watch this, listen to what I have to say. It's still mind-blowing to me, but I am truly so excited to being on the path of fulfilling and feeling my purpose, more so than anything. But also, I'm just so excited for you guys to listen to the incredible guests and conversations that we're going to have featured on here. I hope you are excited from listening to just the couple teasers. I hope you're excited from just understanding how I got here. If I hadn't been able to have a one-on-one, hangout and chat sesh with you to be able to understand that previously, hopefully this answered any questions. And I am always open to new topics. That's what the whole point of podcasts is to converse about the things that you guys are interested in. So anything human connection, internal dialogue, really any topic you think there needs to be a deeper dive on that you think I can handle or find someone to connect on that with, please send them my way. That's what the social medias are for. Open, open, open. But I just want to sign off and say, you guys, keep your ears, hearts, and minds open and do whatever you got to do to stay grounded. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening to this episode of You're Grounded. Make sure to share this episode if it resonated with you, and rate this podcast on whatever streaming platform you like to listen from. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. All social platforms are titled You're Grounded Pod. Until next time, stay grounded.